listeners? Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, I guess I should say, depending upon where you are listening from, because we are global. We are in 14 countries, and I want to thank all of our listeners out there who are with us regularly every single week and subscribe to our episodes of Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. So thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about this week's episode because we're going to be talking about how you can get it together to build your wealth. Who doesn't want to build wealth and who doesn't want to get it together? I mean, come on. I know we're a hot mess some of the time, but we've got to step into our power and get it together. So I am going to be joined today a little bit later by Stacey Lisnock. Now, Stacey, do you want to go by Stacey Golden-Lisnock?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
it's long, but
I'm fine with that. So Stacey Golden-Lisnock, and I also have Corrina Steward here with me. And Corrina, welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. It's so good to see you, Colleen. I'm excited.
Hi, Corrina. Thanks for joining us. And for everyone listening, we are also live on Facebook. So if you are interested in checking out what these beautiful ladies look like and watching us live, or checking out any of our other episodes, if you're just listening to the podcast, you can always hop over to Lead Up for Women on Facebook. And we always invite you to join our Lead Up for Women community Facebook page as well. This is where you get the goodness, the juice, the collaboration, because everyone, I get emails all the time that ask me, what are the rules for posting in this group? And I say, it's simple. The rules are we support women, we lift women, and that's it. So they're like, so I can post about my event? I said, absolutely, because your event is a tool and a resource for them to be able to use. And I love that we get to collaborate and choose what it is that we want to participate in, because I don't like the word solicitation, because I just think that sounds bad. And I like to be able to collaborate. And I think we can choose and make those choices of what it is that we want to participate in. So let me tell you about a few more choices that you have with Lead Up for Women that's coming up, because we have so many platforms that we are just continuing to create because our community is growing so rapidly. We want to continue for all of our members to be able to show up and be seen regularly. So coming up, we have 2 more Teaching Tuesday webinars. As always, we do them on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of every month. And so on July 28th, Jen Duplessis is speaking to us about cracking the top producer code. So no matter what industry you're in, she's going to tell you the secrets of how you can hit that next level, right? So no glass ceiling, ladies. This is how we break above it. So she's going to be teaching on that. You can always go to our website, leadupforwomen.com, to sign up for these free events. The next one is going to be Ann Andrews on August 11th. And she's a designer. So she actually takes your style of clothing and matches that up with who you are and how you show up. Perfect. Totally aligned with who we are and what we do here at Lead Up for Women. So I'm excited about what she has to talk about and possibly clean out our closets at the same time. And then we started something new for our members called our Member Monday Spotlight. So if you are a member and you have not signed up for this yet, please let us know. You can sign up anytime you want. Just email us at info@leadupforwomen.com, and members get to sign up for a special spotlight every single Monday, where we just spotlight you and say, hey, what do you want to talk about? What's your message today? What are you promoting? Let's just have a chat. And this is your opportunity to show up on another platform. So I'm really excited about that one. And then in September, we're starting Lunch and Learns. We were so successful in going around the country in 2019 when we went to 10 different cities. And it was just wonderful to come together as women and meet each other. So we're going to start doing that in September, where we come together once a month and we have 90 minutes, have some educational pieces, be taught something new. We're going to have our sponsors there, as well as women gathering, and you get to purposefully meet and network with other women. So very exciting. We're bringing those back, but we're bringing them back virtually. So that's just how it's going to roll moving into next year, because it's uncertain right now, but you can take that uncertainty and turn it into certainty for your business in your life. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, of how you don't have to live, even though we're living in an uncertain world, it doesn't have to be uncertain in your life. So we can create that certainty, build that wealth. We can get it together. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So no longer does anyone want to listen to me. We need to start getting our guests rolling here. So I want to start with Stacey. And Stacey, I could sit here and read your bio and go on about your financial services career and what you've been doing. But I really want to talk about, you as women, we go. We work hard. We are nurturers. We provide for everyone. And it usually takes something hitting us, like we hit a wall. We have a debilitating illness. Something happens to us that shifts our path. So this happened to you, and I would love for you to talk with our listeners about what changed. What was the major moment in your life that shifted you from what you were doing to your path and your purpose and what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, thank you, Colleen, for having me on. This is a great platform. I really appreciate it. My message is a huge one, and tell you what, I have never been sick in my life. Didn't even want to stay in the hospital overnight when I had my two kids. So I was in and out, don't want to be sick. But I caught a virus, and it wasn't a coronavirus. It was the shingles virus, and it put me down for a good part of most of 2018. So as I was there in this pain, I started thinking about how unprepared I really was, even though from the outside, I look really prepared being a financial advisor, and I've always been an A student, and I've always had all my ducks in a row from the outside. But really, I knew deep down that if something really happened to me, that things are really not in order. So I started going on this path of like, I bet you if I'm not in order, most other people aren't in order. And I know from just being a financial advisor, I would tell my clients year in and year out, you really need to do a trust. You really need to take care of this. You need to put transfer on death or on your bank accounts. I mean, there's all these things you can do to set things up to make it easier. And I'll tell you what, year in and year out, they just didn't listen to me. And so it's a little frustrating. And so that's really what brought me to this. So I think the online, this way I can talk to a lot more people. I can get the people that really are concerned about leaving a mess behind, and I can get them straightened out and have them have that nagging feeling go away. Because I had that nagging feeling like, I know I need to get to this. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
So
when you were going through your illness, when you had shingles, what was that? Tell me mentally what was happening with, what were you feeling? Were you scared? What shifted for you during that time?
yeah, at one point I was like, am I going to die? Like, I really didn't know if I was ever going to get better, because it just felt like I was never going to get better. And that's scary. And you start thinking about how life is going to be if you're not here, and what you're going to miss. And that's how I thought anyways. But it just put me in a place where it's like, you know what, if I get better, I need to draw a line in the sand, and I'm not going to keep thinking about doing things. I'm going to get them done. And so that's what happened. It's like when I finally got able to get my stamina, I didn't want to get sick again by overburdening myself, because it really came on by stress. That's what causes it. And so I really did put the line in the sand. I had a definitive day, and I know what day that was. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning, and I got up and I said, this is the day. I went around the house, took pictures of everything, and said, this is my past life. This is what it looked like.
Wow.
Today I'm stepping into a whole nother different chapter. It really was like that. And I guess
We
that's
get
what
the
I needed.
new Stacey showing up today. The
Yeah.
improved, the new, the like in her truth, knows what she wants in the world. Well, let's talk about how we can really tie this to what's happening in the world today, because whether it's COVID-19, the coronavirus, whether it's the flu, whether it's shingles, whether it's a heart attack, it could be any illness, right, that we have in our family, or maybe it's even a loved one that we have that we really depend on in our lives. Talk about being prepared and why it's important to get your life together, because gosh, doesn't it just feel good when you know your life is together? It's freeing, right? We talk about that a lot, but that's how you create certainty in your life when things around you are uncertain. So let's talk a little bit about that.
That's right. You know, I don't know if you have this, but you ever get this real bug to kind of clean, right? So even if it's just organizing your closet or cleaning out the garage or whatever, you have this sense of you really feel good about yourself, like you did something and you could see it. The thing with doing the work that I'm doing is you don't really see it and nobody else sees it, but you know it in your soul. You know that you've taken care of it. And really what you're doing is making life easier for those that are going to be burdened with taking care of your stuff. It's like if you can't do it, somebody else has to do it. It gets done some kind of way. And usually it's your kids or your spouse or a friend or whoever steps up. But it's a job. And think about it, if your stuff is everywhere and you can't even find it, how is a person that doesn't even know what to look for going to know where to start? It's very stressful on them. It hijacks their life. It really is unfair. And I just think that so I'm putting together a podcast and it's going to have people come on and tell their stories of how their families were torn apart by the fact that their parents or grandparents or whomever didn't take care of things. And it caused siblings to never talk to each other. It's a mess. And I really just think that if I can help, one person, I've done something, but I know that I can help many people. And I'm just really looking forward to the opportunity. So my podcast is starting on August 18th. And so I'm all new to this, but I'm into it. I think it's great. I love it.
Well, I want to be a guest. I want to share my story and some things I've been through. I would, and trust me, we have plenty of women that would love to be guests on your show that have so much to share. So I know that you've already got a great audience and you've already got a lineup of ladies that you can interview. So we will certainly support you on that because that's what we do here. We lift women. Now, I want to talk to you real quick about a conversation I had with one of my daughters the other day, because my husband and I have been very diligent lately about prepping and making sure we have our will in place and literally listing items of, things that we feel need to go to a certain child, how we want the house handled, really get into details, because I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone sorting through my underwear drawer, kind of, like I think about it that way when I die. And one of my daughters said to us, have you labeled who's getting this? And we said, well, I think it was my husband's drum set. And I said, well, I don't know, because he's a drummer and he has like 3 drum sets. That's kind of a big deal to the kids, right? Growing up. And he said, well, I'm not really sure. You guys can just figure out who it goes to. And she said, that is so unfair for us. And he said, what do you mean by that? And she said, because the siblings are going to start fighting because you have one child that thinks they should get everything, maybe another child that won't speak up because they don't want to cause any waves or rifts. And so she said, you have got for us to make sure that we don't have to fight about this because it's unfair to us, you have to label everything, because when you're dead, it takes the pressure off of, us siblings, and then they can deal with you. But if they're mad at you, it doesn't matter because you're already dead. And I said, I guess that's right. So I think you're right. Like you just said, it's about caring about your family and your loved one and your kids, and not hijacking their relationships with their other siblings, their lives, their time. And just like, you wouldn't want them to take care of you now. That's the whole thing. Like, we don't want anyone to take care of us now. We want to take care of ourselves. Why do you want them to have to completely stop their lives for 3 months to go sort through everything and figure this out?
And 3 months would be probably a short time. I've talked to so many people, in just mentioning what I'm doing, they start telling me their story, and I have people crying. I mean, you just start talking about it because they never get a chance to actually unload what they went through and how it affected them. So that's why I'm having people come on and tell their stories. I think it'll be good for their soul because they'll be able to release it, and it'll also let other people know the damage that has been done, because the person that died has no clue the carnage that they left in their wake, right? So it's like, if you know that that's what happens, you can't say, well, I didn't know, because we're going to put it in your face all the time. Every show we're going to put it in your face, and you're going to say, you know what? I really need to be a better person than that. I don't want to have that be my legacy. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if everybody cares. I care. Like you said, you don't want to go through your underwear drawer. I care what people think about me. I want to be thought of and I want to be spoken of well. I don't want people swearing at me from,
From the grave.
From the grave, like I won't know, but I just don't want people to think ill of me. I want people to say, you know what, she had it all together. And the thing of it is, most of the people who you think have it all together actually don't have it together. So I had a colleague who got pancreatic cancer. Now that takes you pretty quick. He was a single guy, but he owned 2 properties. He was taking care of his mom. He had stuff. Didn't even have a will. And he had 2 properties, and his 2 brothers just totally wrote the mom out of everything. They forged his signature on a will. People get really ugly when it comes to money, and when it comes to what am I going to get? What are you going to get? Or you don't deserve this, and they just sort of, instead of loving each other as siblings, they start fighting with each other. I just think that's awful.
Yeah, it breaks families apart. I lost an aunt 5 weeks to pancreatic cancer from the time she couldn't keep things down and went to the hospital and the doctor to the time she was dead. It went that fast.
Yeah, it's quick. It's quick. Mm-hmm. And and the thing of it is, it's this thing, do as I say, not as I do. He's the guy, he was an insurance agent. He's the guy that would rip them up one side and down the other, that they didn't have their trust done or they didn't have their will done. And he didn't have any of it. And he was a single guy without even a spouse. I mean, if you have a spouse, at least you've got a little bit of a safety net, right? It just, everything goes to your spouse for the first go round. Anyway, it's just funny how people.
I think the message is very clear. We need to get it together and make sure that we're not like you. I love what you said about leaving the carnage in our wake. I don't think it's fair to our family that we do that. And so even in an uncertain world, let's, make sure that we're creating that certainty for us. And do you have like a few, steps that somebody can take now, Stacey, if they're listening to this, like action steps that they can take from what you're talking about?
Yeah. So, the first thing and the hardest thing, to be honest, because I even have this problem, is having the conversation. It's tough, right? It's like, what do you want to have? What if you got sick? Would you want to be kept alive? Would you want, what if you died? Do you want to get cremated? Do you want, if most people haven't made arrangements, so it's not like what their ideas are, and people just don't want to talk about it usually. But now, I thought when there was the mass shootings that this was, a perfect time to bring this to the marketplace. But now with the coronavirus, it's like even a bigger issue, because you could get sick and you could die from this thing. We don't even know why. Right? You could be perfectly healthy and it could attack your lungs, and you could be gone in like 3 days or something. Mm-hmm. You don't have time. And when you're sick, and I know this from being sick, you don't feel like doing anything. Mm-hmm. Even though you need to get this important stuff done, you need to have a clear head when you're making these arrangements, like what you were talking about, getting the will, getting the trust, all this stuff. So what I want to, and if it's okay to offer what my offering is. So I am a resource provider, right? So what I'm doing is I'm finding these wonderful resources and I am feeding them to my clientele. And I want you to know that I found something that is fabulous. So you guys are going to be able to the benefit of my research. So you can do what's called an advanced digital directive. An advanced directive gives somebody that you pick the right to speak on your behalf if you should become unable to talk for yourself. Like, let's say you're in a car accident and you're in a coma or whatever, something happens, you're on a ventilator, you can't speak for yourself. What is it that you would want? This helps the doctors immensely, because sometimes you don't want to be saved if the certain situations come about, but they feel like because of liability wise, and I guess they're supposed to do everything they can to keep you alive. And it really just costs a lot of time and effort, and it's not going to make any difference. I did this with my brother-in-law. He had a massive heart attack. His heart was blown apart, and they kept him like on the breathing machine and on the machine. Cost millions or thousands or hundreds of I don't know how much the bill was, but for what? And my sister was begging them, he wouldn't want this, he wouldn't want this. And they wouldn't pull the plug because legally they didn't want to get sued. So if you have this advanced directive in place, and the fact that it's digital, this company is great. They're called My Directives. They have a vault, electronic vault. so that if you were brought in and you're even unconscious, and they could look up your driver's license, they could look you up in the system and see if you have a healthcare directive on file. And then they also allow you to upload other documents like your will or your trust and things like that to keep in safekeeping there, which is really important, because I didn't realize this, but I was talking to a probate attorney and he said, you don't realize how often somebody dies, one of the kids will go find the will and either tear it up because they don't like what it says, or make changes to it because they don't like what it said, whatever. I'm just saying, people are nasty when it comes to money. So this is just one thing that you could do. And I want you to text the word lead up, one word, lead up, to my number. So you're going to have to write this down or listen to it again. But my number is 714-709-2027. And the reason I picked that number, my area code is 714. I live in Orange County, California, 714. But 709-2027, I'm like, that was one of the choices. And I said, you know what? July 9th, 2027 is going to be a great day. And I always remember the number just because I said that. So I'm hoping you'll remember the number too. So it's 714-709, July 9th of 2027. Text the word lead up and you'll get the series of, registration link and be able to get yourself over there.
Yeah, I will put that in the description. So if you're listening on the podcast, just look at the description and click on the link, and then you can text there. And I love that advanced digital directive. It's very important to not, again, have that. And then if the spouse has to make the decision to either to something that you haven't had the discussion of, that's horrible. And, in my house, I have a fireproof safe, and then my will is copied and I have it with another family member and they have a copy at their home. So we've actually, ours isn't the only copy. We take the person who's the person who can make the decisions when we're not around. If my husband and I both travel a lot together, so the odds of one of us dying not around each other is probably the percentage is a little far-fetched versus us being together and something happened. If it was, not of like, if it was an accident or something, being in a car together or something like that.
Absolutely. Important. I had to just tell you that confession in my own life. So as a financial advisor, again, telling everybody you should really have this trust and you should have this will and this and that. My husband and I argued about guardianship for our kids every time the conversation came up. So I just knew it was going to be an argument. So just stopped talking about it. We just never did it. But in 2009, we were going to Mexico, and Mexico was really kind of iffy to go to Mexico. Right. Mm-hmm. So we did get it done in 2009. And by that time, the kids were like 16 and 19. It didn't matter about the guardianship and stuff like that. But, really, if you don't, we're lucky. We kind of, missed the bullet there, but dodged the bullet there. But if you do pass away, both you and your husband, you have younger children, your kids are the ones that are going to suffer, because either everybody wants them or nobody wants them, right? Or maybe somebody wants them, but they can't take both of them or all of them or whatever. It's just bad. They've already lost their parents. Don't make them be the, fought over or put in the system. Yes. So it's important. That's one of my huge things. Even though I was guilty of not doing it, I want to make sure everybody else realizes what could happen.
Well, thank you, Stacey. That is a very generous offer to help, the listeners with getting this started. And, even if you have these directives put in place, even if you have a will put in place, there are always areas that you might have missed. And something that I always say, like a law changes somewhere, or maybe you're not aware of some updates that you should have made. So this is just a good opportunity to have the conversation with Stacey, just to see if you've got everything in place of where it should be. So Thank you so much, Stacey, for that.
Thank you. So in order to really serve as many people as I can, I'm doing an online course that's the subject. So
perfect.
You would not believe how many topics you've never thought of
Yeah.
Never thought of. So
Great.
it's interesting.
Provide us with that link. And then if you're watching from Facebook Live, then, Stacey's going to go out after our Facebook Live today, and she's going to put some links and the information on texting lead up with her phone number in there and how you can reach her and connect with her and direct message her on Facebook. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Stacey. Today was wonderful. This is great information, especially today, and you shouldn't wait till something like this happens. This should have been done. And I'm just as guilty. I did not prepare my wills until after I'd been traveling with my husband everywhere for 2 years. And I was like, I really think we should get a will together. And now our kids have kids. Like, don't wait that long. You should have a will now, especially if you're having a family and babies, just like you need a savings account and an emergency fund. All of these things happen. It's hard. I call it like, putting your big girl panties on and growing up and being an adult. You got to do the adulting stuff. It's time for us to step into that. So yes, it's about activating the things that are going to protect our families. And so thank you so much, Stacey, for being with us, which really leads us right into our next guest, because we're going to be talking about activating wealth. Because if you're leaving something behind, what are you leaving behind? Mm-hmm. And so many times as women, we have discussed this over and over, and the conversation will never stop. We are stopping ourselves from allowing the channels to be open for us to bring the abundance that we're worth. And sometimes we're not even charging what we're worth in just our regular pricing for who we are as women. And I can't tell you how many times women will tell me, I don't do this for the money. I'll say, wow, well, then what are you doing it for? A hobby? Because if you're not doing it for the money, and even if it's a nonprofit, it takes millions of dollars to raise to run a nonprofit. So the resources allow you to go further and spread your message and change and impact the world and the lives that you want to. That's why the resources are important. So Corrina Steward, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you. And Stacey, that was great. Thanks so much for everything you shared. I'm just in that process. I've got little ones and actually working on that. So you were a great reminder to get behind that again.
So Corrina, I'm excited to have you with us. I joined Corrina on her podcast several months ago, and we had just a beautiful conversation about energy and alignment and manifestation, and really the belief in yourself and where you see your opportunities. And I always like to say, slowing down, awakening the power that we have within us. We look too much for it from an outside source, and we're not always going within to really tap into what we have already. And so Corrina, with you being a soul wealth coach, with you helping people activate those energies, let's talk a little bit about how this started for you and why you took this path, and why is this purpose and power that we're tapping into so important for women especially?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite topics. So, how I started, I was on that path. I can really relate to what Stacey was saying, straight A student, valedictorian in my class, went to an Ivy League college, worked for the United Nations. I did all the right things, right? I just did all the right things. And, I started to feel like it wasn't right anymore. I remember turning 30 and saying, I've checked all the boxes. I've accomplished all these things that I said I wanted to accomplish, but I don't feel filled up. And I feel like there's something more. And that was really the beginning of what has become now decades of soul searching and following a calling. At the time, I wouldn't have called it that. Like, I was really interested in a career. And I didn't know the difference between a career and a calling. Yeah. And today, of course, I stand for women and men to really discover what is that calling inside your heart. And the only place you can discover that is inside you. And what happened for me, just to give the like big, I had a near-death experience and I nearly died. And that was a big wake-up call for me of saying, you know what, like life is short. Life is not guaranteed. The next day isn't guaranteed. And I have been, as much as I was asking, like asking God, what is my purpose? What do I, it was like, stop being in the search and the seeking, because I see so many entrepreneurs, particularly, who stay in this place of searching and seeking and don't execute, accelerate. And what I want to share with your audience today is you already know. Mm-hmm. Because I already knew then, but I was pretending I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And really it was my fear and my excuses that were getting in the way. But after that near-death experience, I said, I will say yes. I just said, I'll say yes. I'll walk through every door. Mm-hmm. And I call that my year of yes. And I know, Colleen, you had a similar experience of saying yes, and without knowing exactly what it was going to look like or what you were capable of, right? Mm-hmm. And that year of saying yes led me to just unbelievable connections and opportunities. And, I had been coaching for almost 7-8 years at that point, but I hadn't said my full yes. And that year when I said the full yes, that's when, bam, like the clients came, I had my first 6-figure year. And then 2 years later, I was running $1 million company, and it all happened quickly. But that's because I chose me and I chose this calling 100%. And that's, right now, in this time that we're in right now, women are particularly being called. Because women, I absolutely know and believe, I know that women are the source of the new wealth. Mm-hmm. And the world has been waiting for us to show up 100% and to lead up and really step into what I see as really a divine assignment for women on the planet right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you have to fully step into the yes. And so I think let's go back and talk a little bit about that, because that seems to be the piece, because you said until you said your full yes, you had already been doing what it is that you felt your purpose and what you should be doing. Let's talk through what that looks like for someone to really get to that point, because you're coaching someone now through those pieces, and that's what you do. So if someone's listening today and they're not sure, like, how do I know? I get this question a lot. How do I know what my purpose is or what I'm supposed to do? And then the fear comes. Number one is, how are you going to live? How much money are you going to make? These are all the things that happen. How are you going to have the time to do it? What are people going to think about you if you drop everything? I just hopped from corporate and went straight into what I do now, and, everything worked out fine. But let's talk about mm-hmm. how they activate that. What happens? What signs mm-hmm. are happening? Mm-hmm. That would be a good discussion to have.
Yeah. So, there's many points along the path, right? But I'll speak into the entrepreneur, the woman who right now has been on the path, but is still asking the question, because that's where I was. And here's what I see for most women who are in that place. There's this self-doubt that's leading you. Mm-hmm. And women particularly have this issue. When we look at men, by and large, men are like, nah, I'm just going for it, right? And they have that ego that's driving them, a little more aggressiveness, right? And we can watch, I used to see my husband, had his own business. I'd be like, wow, how does he just go after it, right? Like that. But I felt timid and I wanted to have it all figured out and all the answers. And that's typically a default of women, because we're socialized to be perfect. We're socialized to have, to not make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Right. And to go in this self beat up, and we can be highly critical of ourselves and one another. That's another conversation. But when you decide that you no longer need to be perfect, you no longer need to know all the answers, but instead simply just, I teach meditation techniques that we can talk about a little later, but simply having a practice where you make time for yourself to get inside your heart and say to yourself, if I had to I always say this, like if I were to get up on a stage today and be speaking to 500 people or 1,000 people, what would you say? Chances are you already know what you would say. Mm-hmm. If I already had, 30 clients, 100 clients, or I was already had my podcast, right? What would you be doing, right? Just take yourself through a visualization and self-coach yourself through that. And then you'll realize that the answers are already there. Mm-hmm. And what's actually standing in your way is that confidence and that self-belief. Mm-hmm. And now in that moment, it is simply a decision. All the time, women will say to me, okay, but Corrina, what do I do? Like, how do I get confident? How do I let go of this insecurity? I said, well, take action. You just step in. It's like what Brene Brown talks about in her work around vulnerability. It's like, get in the arena. That's how you'll grow in your confidence. There's no secret beyond that. And my decision after my near-death experience, I remember it vividly. I was sitting at home, all my help had left. My husband was back at work, working on a house project, and I'm sitting there alone with my 2 kids, 2 under 2. And I was nursing one of them, and my 1-year-old's running around, and I was like, this can't be it for me. This isn't it for me. I'm not going back to some of the part-time coaching I was doing and playing small. I didn't know exactly what to do, and that didn't matter. And that's what I want everyone to hear right now. What I felt was this like decision inside of me that said, from this moment on, I will choose my bigger game. Mm-hmm. I will say yes to the things that scare me. I will say yes to the risks. Mm-hmm. It was this silent decision I made within myself that I would face any fear and I would just take it on rigorously. And so it's this decision within you to no longer tolerate, you could call it your excuses or your bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? And then you will grow into the calling. Mm-hmm. And you will become, it's my belief that it's already laid out for you if you choose it. Mm-hmm. God has already opened the pathway. Mm-hmm. And your future self is already there. That empire you want to build, that community, that network, that, whatever it is for you is already there. And you get to just pick up the breadcrumbs and be in the discovery. Mm-hmm. of who you get to become. Mm-hmm. And that is also how the wealth finds you and you manifest it because you say yes to it. And that's the thing. You've got to be a yes. Even if you're, deeply spiritual and you're like, oh, I know I'm wealthy beyond measure and I know I have a purpose, but are you choosing it? Mm-hmm. Because we all are. Mm-hmm. We're all abundant. We all have this great potential, but you must align your personal will to that higher will, or it will just be sitting there and you'll never access it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We had a guest on our podcast that said the quickest way to wealth is speed. So I think what you're saying is so true. You have to take action. I will say, we say this all the time. Manifestation's great, but you can't just sit and meditate and manifest a car and it's just going to show up in your driveway, the one you've been dreaming of, day after day after day. There's actions that you take. And what happens is once you say yes, and I love the way you make it so easy and clear for us to understand. Once you say yes to what you already know is there, that burning, like me, I just kept getting this pull and this pull. And once I fully inside the truth said yes and stood in it, you become your own safety net. The doors open, the paths open, because it's undeniable. The universe has to provide what it is that's happening. And so when you're thinking it, it's like that book E Squared. So mm-hmm. How many times have you said, oh, I've never seen that vehicle before. That's an awesome looking vehicle on an ad or something. Right. And then before you know it, the next month you see them everywhere. Yeah. Why do we think that is? It's because we weren't paying attention to it before. They were surrounding us before, but you never noticed it because you weren't focused on it. So imagine, and this works. I'm in a 30-day program right now. It works every single time. If you are focused on something and you are working toward that goal, your brain starts creating
Yeah.
all of these ways. And then all of a sudden there's connections and you hear people talking about things. Then you're like, wait a minute. And you start asking them questions. And then because you're hyper focused on this, and now the delivery just starts happening
That's right.
because
What
you're
you
hyper
focus
focused
on, you
on it.
attract, and what you focus on grows.
And it will grow. And even if you don't hit, like, whatever that goal is that maybe you have for that 30 days, it will still be beyond measure what you even thought. You're still beyond where you thought you were going to be, even if you don't hit it. So you're still better off. So you're right, I had no idea what it looked like when I was starting Lead Up for Women, and it today looks completely different than how I started building it a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. It just looks totally different and continues to change. And it's going to be, it's just organically shifts based on the needs of what women need and how they're showing up.
That's one of the principles, Colleen. And I think where women can get backed up is definitely in the financial insecurity piece. And there's that fear, right? Well, if I do this, will I be safe? Will I be supported? Will the money be there? Right. And as women, we really care about that. I mean, there's these instincts within us to protect our family, protect our children, and we think about the whole. And so I want to speak to that because there's a flip I want you to have on this, which is that your biggest amount of abundance and your greatest source of financial security in the future is going to be by being in service to a calling. I teach 4 money codes, and the first one that gets you in the door of that higher money is service. If you are not coming from that consciousness, you will always be chasing the money and chasing your security. But when you lock into calling, and that my life is about serving a calling, it's hard for me to say this in words because it's a feeling that comes in your heart. And some of you have had this experience, so you know what I'm saying. Something fills you up. I call it a knowing that you're going to be fine. You may not know how you're going to be fine, but you will.
Those miracles. I have experienced those miracles, and the craziest things happening. You're like, where did this check come from? I don't even know. Yeah. Just strange ways money come to you when you're in the middle of moving towards your calling and what it is that you're supposed to be doing. You're just taken care of.
And that's really the test. I don't always like that word because I don't want anyone to take it as if you're being judged or tested in a sense, right? But to put it that way, it's like if you're feeling fear to step into calling, it is a passage that you're getting to evolve yourself through and transform. You're being called to move through that fear.
Yeah.
And as you do, the blessings, I'm telling you, will be immeasurable. And all of us right now are collectively being taken through that class, that spiritual class with coronavirus and with the economic shifts going on and recession and crises and all of that. We are being collectively brought through it so that we will grow up spiritually.
Yeah. And I look at, the security of knowing that you are able to take care of yourself, take care of your children. Coming from me being a single mother for quite some time in my life, that's very important for me. It's very important for me to know that I can support a family, that I can provide for a family. And I need that for myself. And so that is crucial for me. And so I always lead with, if I know that if I follow my heart, and I didn't always believe that. And so there are going to be disbelievers out there right now that are going to say, yeah, because I have had so many women that have said, well, yeah, but I can't leave my corporate job to go do that. Some people have called them side hustles and hobbies, and that's cute. And I just don't feel that women should be treated that way or looked at that way. And that's really my long-term mission, is how we view women in the workplace, how we view women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
because we certainly don't view a male entrepreneur as, oh, that's cute, or he's weak,
That's
or it's
right.
a side hobby.
Yeah, yeah, and this is a whole part of, so when I had my near death experience, I call it my 3 months of grace afterwards, and I received. So I'm very intuitive, and I have all sorts of spiritual gifts of being able to do energy activation and healing work, and I'm clairvoyant, but they really geared up those 3 months afterwards. There really was this spirit of grace moving through me, and one of the things that happened is I was shown our future. And I was shown the future economy. And this is why I can speak from this place with so much certainty, in my own life being a testament to that now. Yeah. Going 4 years later, I can say everything that was shown and revealed to me has come true in my own life. And so I feel very confident in sharing this, which is that the future economy, not only is it heart-based, but it is based in a new value system. And that value system is calling women who have what we may have called in the past, like these soft skills, right? Which you see in the emergent, this really booming coaching industry. But even going beyond that, what I would call spiritual gifts, these gifts of intuition, gifts of healing, the gifts of knowing. These are the skills that women, all the time I see they're afraid to step out of that, because up until now they haven't been valued. Right. But that is our future, which is a higher consciousness, right? And it's going to shift us out of what has been a very obviously male dominated value system of money and culture. And look what it's created. This isn't to put men down. It's more that consciousness, right? Of exploitation, of harming the earth. And women are locked into these gifts. So again, like where I said, they care about the whole. Women as CEOs, women as leaders, women as politicians simply think different because of being a woman. And that is our future. And that's absolutely what we're evolving into. And it's what the future money is going to be made up of. It's very exciting.
Agreed. Thank you, Corrina. That was beautiful. I really, really am so honored to have you here today, and thank you for sharing that message. And I know that there's someone, maybe several women listening, that needed that reminder, and to hear that reminder. And the more that we can continue surrounding women, and supporting women and lifting women, and supporting their purposes and helping them tap into their powers, and just really coming together as soul sisters. I kind of really look at that thread of sisterhood that connects us, no matter what country we're in, no matter what language we speak, no matter what our religion is, ethnicity. It doesn't really matter. What connects us is we're all women. And so we all have that same internal intuition and nurturing abilities. And let's utilize those abilities to nurture other women rather than compete with them and judge them. That's really where we need to go moving forward.
Absolutely.
So
amen to that.
Thank you, Corrina. Do you want to go ahead and give your contact information or any free offer that you may want to give to our listeners today?
You can find me on Facebook under my Facebook business page, Soul Wealth Coach. So you'll find me there, or look up my name. You'll find me that way as well. And, I'll pop into the Facebook group and, we'll send you a link, Colleen, where I do have a free challenge. It's a 5-day video challenge, which will get emailed to you, called Activate Your Wealth. It's 5 days of where I teach you how to raise your frequency and your consciousness into your wealth, so you can connect to your calling and connect to that wealth that's within you, and some steps to manifest it. So we'll
Perfect. Thank you for that gift. And we'll put that in the description so that everyone can click on the link and get to that. And then if you'll drop it in the comments in the Facebook page, then that'll be perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. It was just a wonderful conversation. And if we can't get it together to create wealth after today, I don't know when we're going to take action. So number one step, take action. I love, what Stacey said, kind of in her offers, which was you have to start with a conversation. So let's start having the conversation. Speak up. You have to speak up and use your voice. Start having the conversations with the people that you need to have the conversations with. And right now, honestly, who knows who's going to have a job? I have to say that honestly. I'm not saying that to be a downer, but when you are your own entrepreneur and you're creating your own wealth and your own path, you never have to worry about someone laying you off. It's your opportunity to create your own path. So it is freeing, and it does give you the ability to feel more confident in yourself moving forward, to not have to rely on others. So thank you both for your words of wisdom today and your testaments and what you've been through in your life. And it's an honor. So thank you. I want to let all of our listeners know that next week we are also going to be recording on Thursday, July 22nd. And we have Lisa Frumhoff. She has lost 90 pounds over the last several months and has completely transformed her entire life, and how she eats, how she works out. She's also a real estate agent, but it's her story that has really changed the whole person that she is today. From where she was a year ago. It's just an amazing story. So we're going to hear all about her. And Batista Gramont, she's an international body designer. So next week, we're going to be talking mainly about health. We're focusing on the health of the body, and women, we need to take care of our bodies. We need to take care of our health. I know we're always taking care of others and then we're eating their leftovers, but we need to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first, like Corrina said. And Stacey mentioned, and we need to make sure that we're creating that space, because we're the ones, just like on a plane. I tell everyone, you don't put everyone masks on and then you'll pass out. You got to put yours on first. This is about putting your mask on first. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. Literally masks, because we're all wearing them these days. So I just want to close the show and just tell all of you beautiful listeners out there to remember that you are the only you that has ever been, and you are the only you that will ever be. So how you live and pioneer your future is up to you. So be you and be strong, and we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week, ladies. Bye.
Bye.
All right. See you, Facebook. We're out. So let's say goodbye to everybody on Facebook. Bye, you guys. If you want to connect with us, leave your comments. We will also be putting some of our links in the bottom.